Is everybody mad at me right now? You can't be mad. You can't be mad at me. I just cleaned out your whole coop. Hi everyone, Janey here. Welcome back to my garden. It is maintenance day today. Honestly, I am in maintenance mode now. We have come pretty much to the end of the season here in California. I have done so much planting this year, including tree fall, where Jason and I planted a whole bunch of trees in the property. And with all that planting and getting the trees in the ground, getting the plants in the ground, some of our maintenance kind of got pushed to the bottom of our to-do list. So I'm really in maintenance mode now, and I really want to start focusing on getting on a good schedule for maintaining my property. And so today I started off kind of in the back of my property by the chicken coop. I am cleaning out my chicken coop. We got these chickens earlier this year. I think it was April. We got 3 of them. They were 3 silkies. Unfortunately, we lost one of them, but we still have 2 more, Hazel and Princess Fluffy Butt. You can only imagine who in my family named Princess Fluffy Butt her name. But it's kind of funny. It entertains me every time I say it. So there's only 2 chickens, so I don't have too much to clean up, but I just want to make sure that I keep everything nice and fresh for them. So what I am doing with my coop, because the coop is actually in the run, I just open up this big door, this man access door is what they call it, and I scrape everything out into the run, all the used wood chips. And I'm going to let the chickens kind of break down the used wood chips along with hay and other things I put in there to eventually make some really great compost that I can put back into my garden. I will keep the coop nice and clean with fresh wood chips every couple of weeks. And so I am just replenishing the stock of fresh wood chips in the coop. I'm especially excited now because they've finally started laying eggs, which is really exciting. Although they are not laying them in these nesting boxes off to the left, they just kind of sit out in the open. These guys are, or these, I should say, these girls are funny chickens. So I put a couple inches of wood chips in the chicken coop and then worked on spreading out all of the used wood chips into the chicken run, and I even covered it a little bit with some fresh hay as well. Okay, so chicken area for maintenance is basically done for now. I've got the coop all cleaned out, fresh wood chips, and wood chips all spread and some hay spread inside the coop. And I'm really happy I got this done before our rains really start, because one of the things I'm worried about is the muddy mess that's going to occur back here once the rains start. So having the wood chips and having the hay, I think, is going to help that. So I moved on to my compost pile next for maintenance. This compost pile is located just next to the chicken coop. I'm using my automatic pruners that I just basically use every single day to kind of cut the branches, cut things up a little bit to help it break down a little bit faster. I am using what's called a cold composting method. I'm not worried about hot composting and getting the right ratio of greens to browns, because to me, that's just a little too much work for composting. So it is going to take a little bit longer, and there are drawbacks to that. And one of them is that it just takes a little bit longer. And I don't know if this method of composting is going to work very well for me. For one thing, I just have far too much garden waste, especially this time of year. So we don't get a lot of rain here in California. And if you want compost, if you want to have a compost pile and have compost really work for you, and you live in a dry area, you need to make sure that you keep your compost soaked. You need to make sure that it's soaked all the way through. And if it hasn't rained lately, you need to give it supplemental water like I'm doing right here. you can see that I have this 3-bin method of composting. Well, I don't know if you can see because my pile of compost is completely covering it, but basically you're supposed to fill up one section at a time and then turn it into the next section as you fill up, the empty section. I have so much garden waste that I have filled up all 3 sections, and I have so much more garden waste that I could have put in here. We're ending up putting it into our green waste bin that the city picks up. And I've even started this pile right here for more garden waste. And you can see that I'm watering it down right now. So I need to figure out what to do with my compost. I think maybe just having one really, really big compost pile is probably the way to go. But I do want to see how quickly it's going to break down once the rainy season starts, and maybe I'll be able to keep it wetter for longer, and hopefully it'll break down quicker. As I was wetting this down, I noticed my neighbor's Chinese pistache tree. Look at how beautiful it is. We don't get a lot of fall color here where I live because we just don't get cold enough, but Chinese pistache always performs. I have actually 2 of these in my property. I have a full grown one, and this one, it makes me wait. It takes such a long time to turn, but when it turns, it's really beautiful. So I'm excited that should start turning red in a couple of weeks. After I finished with my compost pile, I moved on to my Vego garden bed area. My Vego garden bed area has 4 36-inch, I think that's how tall they are. They're the extra tall Vego garden beds, and I kind of just put a random assortment of things in here. I have some veggies, I have some ranunculus that I'm really excited about, and I also have some plants that I'm kind of just storing in here until I can find a good place to plant it. So I really like this garden bed area, and I wanted to clean it up. I got this little I don't know what you call it. I call it like a spider web catcher. And it just kind of, it's like a broom for your walls and stuff like that. So I'm using this kind of all over to get all the spider webs that are all over my property, and it works pretty well. I like it. So I wanted to get all the spider webs off, and then I did want to power wash this area because you can see in the middle, these beds are bottomless beds that I did put some landscape fabric on the bottoms of them, but we put them on concrete. There was a concrete patio here before, and so I wanted to try putting these bottomless beds on the concrete to see how they do, and they do really, really well, except for there is some staining. There is some rust staining and some soil staining, and I don't like it. I don't think it looks neat at all. So I wanted to power wash that today. I figured I wouldn't be able to get everything up, but I at least could make it look a little bit cleaner. Before I did that, I wanted to get my Ipomoea, my sweet potato vine, cleaned up so that I could get underneath there. And I had read online that sweet potato vine is safe for chickens. So I brought this out to the chicken coop just so that they could, 1, peck at it if they wanted to, and then also break it down and basically have the greens added to the wood chips that I just spread in the bottom of the chicken coop.
Oh my god. Did you fall over?
Hazel, are you okay?
You okay? You okay? You okay, Hazel? You alright?
So my plan for what I want to do for maintenance mode for my property is to try and do the zone type of maintenance. So at my last house where I had a much smaller property, I did zones to maintain my property as well, but I did it as in like Monday I would fertilize, and Tuesday I would do pest control, Wednesday I would do weeding, and so on and so on. And unfortunately this property is just way too big to do it like that. I've been trying to do it that way, but I just can't weed the whole property in one day. It's just not going to happen. So I've been kind of racking my brain trying to figure out how I can do a good zone type of maintenance for my property. So I kind of broke it up into zones. I think I did 10 zones. I think that's what I figured out. And I think that, well, my goal is that every week, maybe 1 or 2 times a week, I'm going to focus for about an hour on each of those zones. So today's zone is the chicken coop, the compost pile, and the Vego garden bed area. And I don't expect to get everything done in this hour. I just want to kind of chip away at it. And then by the time I get back to the zone, I can maybe work on other things. Like next time I come back to the zone, I'm not going to need to power wash, or I'm not going to need to clean out the chicken coop again, maybe at that time. So that's my plan for these zones. You're probably going to see some maintenance videos coming up over the next couple weeks about working in these zones. And I'm just trying it out, and I'm just hoping that it's going to help me keep on top of all the maintenance that I have in this property, but also help me keep on top of it in a way that's very palatable for me, whereas I'm not out here working 8 hours a day on the garden, because I don't want to do that. I like working out in my garden maybe 2 hours, maybe 3 hours. If I have a big project, maybe a little bit longer. But when it comes to maintenance, I don't like spending my whole day doing maintenance in the garden. So I will keep you all updated on how this works. I've actually used this method. Well, you probably 90% of you know what I'm talking about when I say the Fly Lady method. I've learned to keep my house clean and maintain my house with the Fly Lady method. And she does this type of thing where she breaks everything down into zones so that it's a little bit easier to handle, and you can just give yourself a set period of time, like 15 minutes or 1 hour, and you get done as much as you can. And if you don't finish it all, that's okay, because you're going to come back to it next time that you come around for the zones. And so I do that inside with the Fly Lady method. And so I thought, okay, well, let's see how it works doing it on the outside. And again, not expecting that everything's going to get done, but at least something's going to get done. So I worked on getting all the spider webs out of the area. Jason and I topped off the Vego beds with a couple inches of compost. I cleaned up all the weeds. I really didn't have too many weeds, but kind of just some old foliage, dead foliage that needed to be pulled. I got out my blower to try and clean most of the mess off of this patio, and then I had planned to get out the power washer. And this power washer, it's not the strongest power washer, which honestly isn't a bad thing, because I didn't want anything too strong that was going to chip the paint on these Vego beds, but I wanted it strong enough that I could get as much of the junk off of this patio as I could. I really don't like this concrete patio because it all goes inward you can see it all drains right inward to where that little drain is, and that drain does not work very well. And the slope of how it drains doesn't work very well. So it's a lot of it's just kind of standing, pooling water in the middle of this patio, and I don't like it at all. My plan is hopefully sometime next year I can find some type of barrier to put around this area and fill it with some gravel, like some decomposed granite gravel or something like that, just at least to make it look a little bit cleaner. So that's definitely on my to-do list. I don't have any set plans to get it done yet, but I think it'll make it look a lot neater. And honestly, just power washing the area, makes it 90% better. It cleans off these Vego beds and it cleans off the floors so that most of it is cleaned up except for the rust stains. And I know that there are ways that you can treat rust stains on concrete with some chemicals. I know you can use vinegar and stuff like that, but I didn't want to do any of that. One of the reasons is I actually don't know where this drains out to. I have no idea. And so I'm kind of afraid that if I put any chemicals there, I don't really know where it's going to go. So yeah, there's that. So Vego garden bed is done. You can see everything looks pretty clean. The Vego beds look clean. The garden beds look clean. The concrete patio does not look clean. It still looks stained. It's very, very frustrating. I did want to show you all this though, because on the Vego website, it says that you can put these bottomless beds on concrete, and technically you can. But if you have really poor drainage like I have, you're going to see some staining. It's just going to be there. So just kind of think of that before you decide to put a bed like this on a patio, which I kind of think is the same for any garden bed. The water's got to drain somewhere. So the last thing I wanted to get done today isn't maintenance, but it is something that I have been meaning to do in this area of the garden, and that is sow my carrot seeds. So I can sow carrots multiple times a year, but this time of year is my favorite because we're coming into our rainy season. So it's going to help me keep them nice and watered. And there's a lot of tips and tricks on how to keep specifically your carrot seeds watered so that they germinate. Carrot seeds are notorious for taking a really long time to germinate. And once you water seeds in, you have to keep them watered that whole germination period. So carrots are really, really tough. And a lot of people say use a piece of burlap and put it over and to keep it wet, or you can use a board to keep it wet. I always just think, okay, I'm going to commit for 2 to 3 weeks. I'm going to come out here 2 to 3 times a day and water it in just like I'm doing now. And that seems to work really, really well for me. And I also, blasphemy, I leave my hose out. I leave it out right by my carrot seeds because that's going to make it that much easier for me to water these multiple times a day and keep them wet while I'm waiting for them to germinate. Then once they germinate, I let them grow a couple inches and then thin them. Thinning them is super important. I didn't thin as well as I should have last season when I was growing my carrots, and I got a whole bunch of baby carrots, which are very cute, but I definitely want bigger carrots this year. So that wraps up my maintenance day. I did want to show you all the Dig Plant Water Repeat shop and the new holiday stuff that we have, which is so much fun. I always love curating holiday gardening gear for you all. It's such a fun thing. It's a joy in my life, and Courtney and I have so much fun doing it. And we have launched our holiday shop already this season. If you are not signed up for our newsletter, make sure you sign up for our newsletter because we will announce everything there first. And so when the November newsletter went out, we announced that our holiday shop was open, and we have so many fun things this year, including 3 different gift boxes, which are so fun. This Plants, Coffee, and Sunshine gift box has a coffee mug, a little notebook that you can take gardening notes in, a seed mix, and then also Jess from Roots and Refuge, she has started a coffee company, and we actually have her coffee. We also have the DPWR candle gift set, the scents from the garden, which I just think is so fun. I love holiday scent candles, but think about it. If you're giving somebody a gift, they're going to open it on Christmas, and then it's gardening season right after Christmas. I don't know, at least for me. So having the gardening scents is perfect, and it's a perfect gift. And then we have the Gardener's Hand Care box, which has the long woman's work gloves, which are absolute game changers for me. And then every year I like curating and selling beautiful gardening ornaments because they're so hard to find. So Courtney and I have been working for a couple months now to find the absolute cutest gardening ornaments. They always sell out really fast. So just make sure you head over to the shop and check them out now. See what's there. Think of what you want to get for your fellow gardening friends or family, and think of what you want to get for yourself. So today was a really good maintenance day. You can see how clean everything looks in the Vego garden bed area. Yes, you can see this shot was strategically placed so you can't see the staining, but it looks really good. And then I even did work on the compost pile a little bit. That's looking really great. And then finally, the chicken coop. I do think Hazel and Princess Fluffy Butt are a little bit annoyed with me right now, but you know what? They got to learn to be grateful. So I hope you all enjoyed this, and I hope you all have a chance to get in your garden today.